Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to show you, do a detailed review on the reusable K-Cups for the Keurig K Supreme and the K Supreme Plus. So I've got the K Supreme Plus here. I've also got the K Supreme, and I tried these out and I got the same results with that machine. So what makes the K Supreme and the K Supreme Plus so special is they've got 5 needles at the top. A typical Keurig just has the one center needle, but this has got 4 needles that go around the side. So when you use a reusable K-Cup, it can be a little tricky. So the ones I'm going to be trying today are made by GOODCUPS, but they've got the 5 holes in the top. I bought them off of Amazon. They're the #1 new release in reusable coffee filters, and they're $15 for 4 black ones. I wish I'd have got. They also come in multicolor. Those look pretty cool for the same price. I'm recently an Amazon affiliate, so if you see a link to this in my description, if you click on it, it does help defer some of the cost when I buy this off of Amazon. I do get a little bit of money when you click on the link, and that will help, like I said, when I buy these to review them on Amazon. So thanks everybody for your support with that. So standard reusable K-Cups, they used to just have the single needle. And like I said, these were for the other Keurig machines that only have one needle. But you can't use these with the K Supremes. So they had to come out with something different. So for a while, the only thing out was the My K-Cup. And it's called the New Design My K-Cup. So Keurig sells a reusable K-Cup, but they created this new lid here, and it's got a place for 5 needles, and it's got this red thing that you take off when you want to use the 5 needles. The 5 needles will fit into this reusable K-Cup and brew your own coffee grounds. Make you a single serve cup of coffee with your own coffee grounds. Now this is fine. You have to take this. You don't need this. This is for older Keurig machines. You got to have it just like this. But when you use the Keurig design, you've got to take the needle basket out, which isn't that big a deal. You know, you take the needle basket out, and then this fits in place of the needle basket like that. Make sure you take the red thing out. I left it in just for demonstration, and then when you close this, then you can do your brew. It's got a place for the 5 needles to go. So what's nice about this type of K-Cup, it's got 5 holes for the needles to go into. It's also a little different in that it's got a needle for the bottom. I'm not used to seeing this part. Normally they're recessed, so the needle sticks in an area and doesn't actually go into the reusable K-Cup. So this is for the older single needle ones. This is for the K Supremes that have the 5 needles, and then it's got a place for the bottom needle. Now what's nice about these is they're the exact same size as a normal K-Cup. So you don't have to, you can leave the needle basket in. So whereas you would put a normal K-Cup in, you're going to do the same thing with this, except you got to do a little more work this time. You got to line up that needle with that, which isn't that big a deal. It kind of goes in there as long as you get it pretty close. And now make sure it's nice and flush. Now one thing I am noticing when I close this, you got to make sure the lid is down all the way. See how that lid, okay, so it's down all the way. Put the needle in, okay. So you still have some slop. It can kind of turn this way or that way. You want those needles to line up. So what happens is you go to close this, and it doesn't want to close right away. Now you don't want to force it because you can break this hinge in that. So you just got to kind of play around with it. Okay, so sometimes this can be tricky to close. If this isn't lined up just right, you know, it's not going to close. But what I found is if you press on this, so sometimes if you have to press on this a little bit as you close the handle, it does help. But again, you don't want to force it. And you may have to reposition it a little bit. So again, I'm just going to kind of, there. So see, I pressed on it. Now the handle's going to close real easy. So these are not designed, you know, they're not designed absolutely the best, but they do work. So now let's lift up. Because that center needle is pretty fragile. These are okay. These are a little, but they're still all pretty fragile. You just don't want to get it. You don't want to force this handle closed and break a needle, because then your machine could be ruined. So earlier I brewed one with a filter and one without a filter. So you don't need a paper filter to go with this. Now some people prefer paper filters because a Keurig, a normal coffee K-Cup, has a paper filter in it. So like your coffee is inside a filter inside this K-Cup. That's why you don't get sediment in your coffee. But so these filters have got like a wire mesh on the bottom. There's a place for the bottom needle. And there's a little lip here to open the lid. And that's what it looks like. So we can brew this with and without a filter. So I'll do the first one without a filter. So use just normal drip coffee maker coffee grounds at a medium grind. You know, perfect pod. A lot of these scoops are really nice. They get exactly 2 tablespoons. That's what this holds. That's what a standard K-Cup holds, is 2 tablespoons. Put the lid on, and it puts your grounds right in there. Now, you don't want to get any coffee grounds on the lid, so close the lid. It's got a little seal. Make sure it's nice and tight all the way around. And make sure there's no coffee grounds. So again, we're just going to lift the needle. We leave the needle basket in for these. We're going to put that in there with our coffee grounds. I'm going to close this. It kind of catches. I'm going to kind of push on that a little bit. Maybe rearrange it a little bit. There. So it does kind of just catch a little bit, but I think that's okay. Then the handle goes down. I brew my reusable K-Cups on 8 ounces because it's 2 tablespoons of coffee. So they do work in the K Supreme. I didn't get any water. Sometimes if K-Cups don't, or if these reusable cups, you'll get water coming out of the machine in places you don't normally get water. So that looks like it worked pretty good. Let's lift this up, see how it did. So you do get some coffee grounds on the needles. It's a good idea to do a rinse once in a while. You know, just don't have a K-Cup in here and just run hot water through it. You do get some of the coffee oils down in there. So it's a good idea just to rinse this out once in a while with just water by just closing this and doing like an 8 or a 10 ounce brew with no K-Cup. Okay, so that brewed a really good cup of coffee. I've had this. It tastes really good. Now there's no coffee grounds in here, but you do get a little bit of sediment, and I'm going to show you that. Be careful, these can be hot. But you can see with the 5 needles, you do get a little more penetration with the water. You can kind of see the 5 indentations where the needles were, but I didn't get any coffee grounds that came up out of the K-Cup, so it worked really well. Next, let's do one with a paper filter. So several companies sell paper filters. Perfect Pod. I've done a review. Check out my other video on the different types of paper filters. So they come pre-formed. What you'll notice though is these stick down in there a little farther. So see how maybe you had a previous reusable K-Cup. It had that recessed area. So the area inside here wasn't as big. Well, with these, it's actually a little bit bigger because that filter material goes all the way to the end, and then there's a place for the needle. So put your filter in here, and it's going to go down. Normally that would stick above, but it's okay if it gets it down in there just a little bit. Now we want to put our 2 tablespoons of coffee in there. I've noticed it works a little better if you use just a little bit less than 2 tablespoons. We're going to pour it in. Now again, make sure you don't get any on the lip. We got to be able to close this. Now one thing I did notice, so when you close it, since you got the paper filter in there, whereas before I didn't get any coffee grounds coming out the holes, I do on this one when I've got the paper filter, but that's okay. Just dump it over. You might have to kind of tap it to kind of get the coffee grounds down in there, and maybe dump it just a little bit. You don't want any coffee grounds on the surface. So that can be a little tricky with the paper filter in there. So I don't have any coffee grounds. And again, we lift this up. Now we're going to make sure that lid is nice and tight all the way closed. We need all the room. We can't have that lid And don't be dumping that over. You will get coffee grounds to come out of it. So again, just kind of position it in there. Close this. It may not want to close right away, so just kind of push on this a little bit. It may just need a little bit. No. Reposition it. There. That's all it needed. Now the handle goes down. Now it's activated. 8 brew. Okay, so let's see how it did. Again, I do get a few coffee grounds up on the needles, but it did pretty good. I don't have any coffee grounds that got into the coffee. Now, I'm not going to brew one. I've got another video on the My K-Cup with the 5 needles. I've got another video that this thing works really well in the K-Supreme and the K-Supreme Plus. So check out that video with this. This video is mainly going to deal with these two, or this with and without a filter. So here we have with the filter. You can see the 5 needles did a pretty good job of penetrating it. It is a little tricky getting that filter out. Normally the filter material is up a little higher and you can grab it, but you're not able to. So here it is. Here's without the filter. You can see it did a good job too. And so over here earlier, this is what it looks like. So again, this was without the paper filter. You do have a little more cleanup work to do, but even with this one, you got to do some cleanup work. And there's how the paper filter looks. And there's how the coffee looks. Okay, so let's show you this one from earlier. This one's going to have a little bit of sediment in it. Again, I'm not sure if sediment's good or bad for you. I think it adds a little flavor to the coffee, to be honest with you. But that's what you will see in the bottom of your coffee cup. And so this was with the paper filter. You do get a little bit of sediment with the paper filter, just not nearly as much, as you can see. I've read online that some people, like I think the old days or the French or somebody would call that coffee ink or something. But again, I do think these taste a little bit better with the sediment. But when I first saw the sediment, it was kind of startling at first. I really didn't know what it was. So that's why I'm doing this video, just to kind of show you that they do make paper filters if you want to use a paper filter. So this GOODCUPS reusable K-Cup filters for the Keurig K-Supreme and the K-Supreme Plus do work. Now you do have to kind of move this around a little bit sometimes to get the lid to close. These are early on. I think they're going to be coming out with more of these reusable K-Cups because these machines are very popular with the 5 needles. I do think they brew a little bit better cup of coffee. So I bet we're going to see more designs come up. Maybe some of them might be a little better with getting the needles in on the first shot. But these reusable K-Cups do work. Again, thanks everybody for your support. I recently surpassed 4,000 subscribers this week. Just really blown away by everybody's support. I just really, really appreciate it. Everybody's been so nice. If you've got any questions or future reviews you'd like to see, I've got some coffee taste tests. I've got all the Walmart K-Cups they make. I'm going to do Maxwell House, all the different K-Cups they make. And those are from viewers like you. So thanks everybody. And if you could, please like and subscribe.